Hello there and welcome to Creative Autistic, and today I'm talking about alexithymia. Alexithymia is a term that describes difficulties with understanding or recognizing or describing emotions, and it's something that's actually common in both autistic people and in depressed people. And according to UK charity Autistica, which is a charity that actually focuses on research and study within autistic people, it's thought that up to 1 in 5 autistic people are alexithymic. So today I'm going to be discussing my own experience of alexithymia, and it's really important to remember it's just my experience, and each and every autistic person out there will have their own individual experience of alexithymia, and of course there is no one definitive experience of being autistic, so it's really important to watch a variety of autistic creators so you can get kind of a fully rounded view on any kind of topic that's related to autism, really. So I've definitely had problems and difficulties with both recognizing and understanding emotions that I've experienced throughout my life, and I'm very aware that I may come across as somebody that's really emotionally intelligent, and in many ways I am quite tapped into my emotional self, but there are instances where I really, really struggle with recognizing what emotions that I'm experiencing. And in all honesty, I think I understand emotions in other people far better than I do within myself. So, firstly, if I look back at my childhood, I don't actually remember a whole lot of my childhood, and I've discussed this a few times now, but whenever I remember my younger self, I don't remember feeling a whole lot of emotion really. And the only time that I felt more in tune with emotions and kind of understanding what they were was when I'd experienced kind of negative stuff really. For instance, I lost my mum in childhood, and of course, that would bring up around a whole host of negative emotions. And, I felt a profound sadness over that. And similarly, I went through quite a lot of bullying as a child. So I was, very in tune with how that made me feel. I just felt very alone. I felt very kind of powerless in many ways, and just desperately sad. So in many ways I could understand those emotions way better and understand why I was experiencing them. So because of all of this negative stuff that was happening in my childhood, I just assumed that this kind of lack of emotion that I have in many ways was related to PTSD or CPTSD. But now that I know that I'm autistic and I'm learning way more about autism, I can definitely see the ways that alexithymia presents itself within me. So I think because of this early exposure to negative feelings, sadness, frustration, powerlessness, this was something that kind of came with me in childhood actually. So I've been more able to tap into these kinds of emotions really and to understand what they are, but not all the time actually. And very often I have this thing where I kind of feel bothered by something, like there's something going on at the back of my mind that's telling me that there's, something going on, but I cannot explain to you what it is because it's just something that I'm not quite able to tap into or to put my finger on. And it's like I just don't have the capacity to know what it is. And I've been feeling like this actually for the last few weeks. I'm just constantly aware that there's something going on in my brain somewhere that's almost acting as, I don't know, not like an alert. It's just, just there. And I can't grab hold of it. I can't understand it. and it just makes me feel a little bit confused or a little bit discombobulated, really. And the only thing that I think it might be is that in the UK, we're just about to go into winter now. We're in the very early stages of winter, and the clocks have gone back, so we're getting darker nights now, or earlier nights, and I really don't like it. I much prefer daylights. I like to be able to see things clearly. I've got some various kind of issues with my eyes, and I just prefer daylights. So I do wonder if that's what this is all about, really. There's like a discomfort going on, and maybe it will reveal itself to me in the weeks or months to come, but quite often this thing won't come, and I'm just left feeling like I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for my brain to tell me what's going on and how I'm feeling. And sometimes the reveal comes, but sometimes it doesn't. So it might just be with me for a while, this feeling, and it might well go. And I won't be able to tell you either way until I start feeling like this feeling within me has gone. And I don't know if this will make any sense to any of you whatsoever, but I think it's one of the ways that I experience alexithymia. I found it really interesting in the past whenever I've heard people say that they use alcohol to be happy, to forget their worries and forget their problems, temporarily, of course. But for me, alcohol has been very useful for actually tapping into my feelings. And I've definitely got some memories actually of feeling kind of similar to where I am now, and mindfully thinking, you know what, I'm just going to have a few drinks tonight, and maybe this thing will reveal itself to me, maybe it won't. But yeah, there's been instances where I've been like, okay, this is how I'm feeling after a few drinks at home on my own, incidentally. And it's just allowed me, in some instances, to feel sad because that's how I was feeling, only I wasn't aware of it in the here and now at the time. So I'd have a massive cry and often feel a bit better after doing so. Sometimes I would feel more joyful and I'd put on my favourite records and whatever and have a bit of a dance around my flats. And yeah, it was a really interesting tool for me to be able to really tap into this kind of unknown feeling that was going on in my mind. Although it's not about autistic people, I found this study on alexithymia and binge drinking really interesting, as it states that alexithymic individuals may use impulsive actions such as binge drinking to either cope with or better understand their emotions. And frustratingly, I can't drink alcohol anymore because I've got MCAS, which means I'm intolerant to a whole load of stuff, including alcohol, and I'm really missing it as both a tool for being able to tap into emotions, and also I found it really useful for kind of, social issues that I've always had, really. And incidentally, I have done a video on alcohol, and I'll leave that linked below in video description if you want to go and check that out after this one. And I do need to state here that I am absolutely not advocating anybody to use alcohol or anything else to try and understand their emotions. It's just really about my own observations of my younger self. So, as I was saying earlier, I am probably, or definitely, more in tune with more negative emotions and negative feelings. Again, not always, but certainly I would say there's more instances of me being able to recognise negative emotions in my life, and anger and frustration is right up there. So I've got a really interesting story about me and my relationship with anger. And firstly, as a child, and being a girl in my teens and early 20s, anger wasn't something that I ever really felt. It wasn't an emotion that I was very much tapped into at all. I've certainly got no memories of doing so anyway. But I joined a company in, I think, my mid-20s, and the office manager there, I'm going to call her maybe, I don't know, Melanie, was really lovely on the surface. She was very well to do, very pleasant, and very accommodating of everybody. And everybody in the office really liked her because she came across as just being very nice. But she had the most amazing ability to lose her temper at the drop of a hat, really. And I mean this in terms of her kind of making personal calls that were involving kind of customer service in some way. So if she had to ring and complain somewhere about something, you know, a service that she'd had or a product that she'd had that for whatever reason she wasn't happy with, and she would go from 0 to 100 just in a matter of seconds. And everybody in the office was just in complete awe of her ability to be able to do this, you know, to go from somebody that was really lovely and friendly to somebody who would absolutely take no rubbish from you whatsoever. And I used to think, I really wish I could have this skill, you know. I was so used to just putting up with whatever from people, really. I just wasn't in tune with anger, or certainly displaying anger to people. And I'd always just come across as, you know, just friendly, accommodating, and that you know, that was certainly representative of my masked self. You know, I didn't know I was autistic at the time, but I just convey this sort of very pleasant person to people as a matter of course, really. Not long after witnessing Melanie make these amazing calls, I suddenly developed this ability myself, and I suddenly found a power within me to start saying I was unhappy to people, and to not put up with, you know, rubbish, really. And I say this in terms of actually customer service calls. You know, I would never dream of speaking to people that I knew like this, but for whatever reason, something just switched in my brain, and I just started telling people in customer service roles that I was unhappy with what they were telling me. It felt unfair, it felt unjustified, and I, as a customer, didn't want to be fobbed off. So, as a consequence of this newfound skill, which I think is a result of autistic mimicry, really, I lose my temper really easily. And again, not with people I know. I very rarely lose my temper at home. And if I do, it's over really, really quickly. But I don't know, I've just developed this thing where I absolutely cannot stand being treated badly by people anymore. So, because of this skill that I learnt from Melanie, I am able to tap into anger really quickly, really easily, and I go from kind of 0 to 100 really easily as well. And it's almost like I just don't have any kind of, you know, gradients of emotion between the 2 points, really. So it's kind of like when you're driving and you're building up kind of gears. I just don't have that kind of functionality, and I, you know, I lose my temper really easily, and I hate it. I really hate this about myself now, because whenever I lose my temper, I feel like I'm causing my body unnecessary stress, because I'll be left with loads of adrenaline, loads of cortisol, and it will take me ages to come down from feeling like that. And with that will then come maybe embarrassment or a bit of shame, and it will take me, you know, a good day or two to get over. So what I try to do now is really avoid situations where I know I'll get angry or frustrated. So yeah, it's a really difficult thing to have to deal with, really. So what about joy? I'm very aware I've been talking mainly about negative feelings in this video, or how I've been a little more inclined to be more in touch with negative feelings. Not always, but sometimes. But the feelings of joy or happiness or excitement are a little more elusive for me, I have to say. And in many ways, these are emotions that I've never really experienced very often within the moments, and they tend to be something that I recognise or understand later on, once the events or period of time has passed, really, and I've been able to almost intellectualise what those feelings have meant. So hindsight is a very powerful thing, isn't it? So when I think about my childhood, I don't have very many memories of feeling joy or excitement. And certainly through my teens and my adult years, there have been far fewer instances of joy or happiness that I've felt within a moment, really, or I've certainly not appreciated those feelings within the moments. And the only examples where I have felt complete joy, I have to say, have been with the help of alcohol. So I've got vivid memories of going to live gigs. I really love live music, or certainly I used to. And I just remember feeling utter joy within the moments, and I don't doubt it was because a few things were at play, really. The alcohol was helping to numb down all of my sensory issues, and because there was loud music playing, I didn't feel like I'd have to talk to other people, because obviously the music was too loud. So I'd just be able to absolutely get lost in the music and just to fully take on board all the kind of lovely stuff that was happening. So if it was one of my favourite bands, that would make it all the more joyful and exciting, and I would feel really happy within the moment. There's no two ways about it. I absolutely felt those feelings within the moments. And in terms of feeling joy with no alcohol, I can't really remember. Well, certainly there's no vivid memories coming to me. Um, Maybe whenever I kind of get lost in kind of a hyper fixation, maybe there might be elements of enjoying what I'm doing. But when we're talking about the most kind of superlative or heightened meaning of the term joy, they've been few and far between for me in the moments. But what I am able to do instead is to look back at moments of my life and have an appreciation for feeling happy whenever I look back at those moments. And it's almost like there's a disconnect going on somewhere between being able to experience something in the moment and being able to look back at a moment in hindsight. Really, there's definitely a disconnect going on in my brain there. And I just feel like it's a shame, really, that I've not been able to fully appreciate really good moments in my life at that time. I've had to wait for my brain to kind of process what's gone on to inform me later on how I felt. And it's so interesting, isn't it? And it comes as absolutely no surprise to me whatsoever that depressed people will often feel alexithymic as well, because whenever I look back at my life, I've had some really dark episodes in my life and really quite extended periods of depression, that alexithymia actually helps me explain kind of how that feels, really. For instance, depression is often described as a kind of sadness, isn't it? But for me, I know this is the same for very many people. Depression and experiencing depression is more like having a complete absence of feelings. And for me, Alexithymia at its worst is almost like a paralysis of the mind, really. That's the best way that I could describe it. It's almost like your brain is just failing to tell you anything about how you're feeling, and it's like an extreme kind of lethargy. It just makes you feel really, really lost. So with my experience of alexithymia and lacking kind of joy and sort of happiness within a moment, what I do try to do is really try and be mindful about things. So if there's something that I'm doing perhaps with my partner or my dog that I know I should be enjoying in some way, such as going for a really beautiful autumnal walk at the moment, that the leaves are all gorgeous reds and browns and yellows, I know at some level this kind of visual stuff is going to make me happy, and I might not fully appreciate it in the moments, but I will try and zone in on it. And sometimes after the moment, my brain will remember that walk and think, gosh, that was a really lovely thing to do. It was so nice. The blue sky was beautiful. There was a slight breeze in the air. It was just so lovely. And that almost gives me validation that it was a really lovely moment. But it's frustrating that sometimes, or very often, I can't feel that in the moment. But yeah, I just really try and zone in on all the nice things so that hopefully my brain will catch up a bit later. So I don't know if any of this would have made sense to you today, because alexithymia is, I think it can be difficult to explain within a kind of personal context, really, because we all experience things differently, don't we? And I've been giving a lot of thought to alexithymia since my diagnosis earlier this year, because it's helped me to explain a whole lot of stuff about how I process information, really. And I'm just so grateful to have this knowledge now. But I would love to know if you can relate to anything that I've said in this video today, or if you can't relate to anything, because I think it just really helps to evidence how we're all so different as autistic people. Yes, we have autism in common, but our experiences are completely unique to us. So I think that's going to be it for today. I don't doubt that this will be a theme that I come back to at some point, because I find it really interesting. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Give it a like if you got this far, and I'll see you again soon.